que vous avez bien écouté sa présentation et que vous avez pris des notes. Nous allons prendre le dernier intervenant qui est İlyas Yuseynov.
Thank you. Dear guests, speakers, delegations, with your permission, first of all, I would like to thank the Executive Director of Baku Initiative Group, Mr. Abbas Abbasov, for his professionalism and high organizational skills. Among the many omissions and shameful silences of the modern world, one stands out as the most glaring. It is time to ask the question, what is the meaning of sovereignty and what is its value? For each nation owning its own destiny, creating and developing its independent states is a great achievement. Despite the difficulties, occupation, deprivations faced at various stages of history, no force could shake the determination of independence and statehood of our people. While declaring its independence in 1991, Azerbaijan restored its state sovereignty because sovereignty means the supreme quality of power. While during the Soviet era, power and divide of supreme quality, sovereignty acts as a legal basis of the state's existence and the main condition for its becoming a subject of international law. In other words, objective factors such as territory, population, and political power that make up the state are taken into account at a legal level. However, it is an inevitable condition that an political entity that contains these attributes must have sovereignty in order to establish a state. Sovereignty acts as the main condition of the state's existence and institutional continuity. In recent years, in almost all countries of the world, more and more attention has been paid to the problem of protecting state sovereignty. The European Union and its member countries are not exception. Both at the level of Brussels and the level of individual European capitals, active discussions are underway on the state and prospect of various aspects of European and national security, which issues European identity and Europeanness are closely intertwined. Consideration of the problem of sovereignty, formally understood as the independence of the states in external affairs and the supremacy of the power in international relations in the pan-European context, is a rather complex task given the legal and political nature of this supranational economic and political entity. A sovereign state is a state that represents the supreme power in international law, is completely independent in its domestic and foreign policy, does not depend on the power and another state, that the sovereignty over the certain geographical area. Also, a sovereignty state means a modern state. If someone used the term modern state, today it means a sovereign state at a political level. Because the current way of life and making happens after the emergence of the sovereignty state and stem from the essence. With the emergence of the sovereign state, a system of sovereign states was created and modern international relations were formed. These relations were accompanied by the emergence of new norms and standards on behavior between sovereign states. However, the paradoxical nature of the sovereign is manifested on the double standards that appear in this application. For example, not look at peoples, states, religions, races, on other human societies with the same eyes, evaluating them differently, being based, interpreting of violating rights and justice in favor of the determinate of another. The most discussed and most painful aspects of double standards in the different-based attitude of large states against small states, and in general of the states against two other states. The policies of the United States of America, France, and other countries towards Armenia and Azerbaijan can be cited as an example of double standards. In this case, the term hypocritical policy is also used. The 907th amendments of the US Congress, which prohibit aid to state Azerbaijan, is also considered a clear example of the double standards. A full understanding of sovereignty in modern times required approaching it from a broader perspective. The classical nature of the sovereignty is not questioned. New approaches in the context of today's realities reinforce its essence. Armenia's occupation of the territories of our country limited international sovereignty over the certain territory. That is the sphere of application of supreme power. In other words, it prevented the application of sovereignty supreme power within the certain territory of the state. However, this occupation did not affect the international legal sovereignty of Azerbaijan. As a result, the occupation Karabakh region of Azerbaijan remained the sovereign territory of Azerbaijan during the entire period of occupation. This principle, based on the existence and continuity of a sovereign state with its territory, actually organized from the essence of the system of sovereign states. Its denial would be serious blow to international legal sovereignty. International legal sovereignty includes the recognition of Azerbaijan within the international borders. Ladies and gentlemen, France has traditionally been one of the key players in Africa, which to historically established ties has a significant influence on the political life and economical development of African countries. The history of African continent, perhaps more than any other, is full of cataclysms and turning points that radically changed the lives of indigenous people and determinate, of course, of this future development. It has now been proven that the enslavement of Africa by European power over more than 4 centuries of slave trade and colonial exploitation not only result in colossal suffering and this for millions of Africans, but also became the region of Africa's modern backwardness and mass poverty of the population compared to other countries. Cataclysm is a policy of context and exploitation by military, political, and economic methods of people, countries, and territories predominantly within a foreign population on which an alien religion, language, culture, etc. are imposed. Ideas about the mental retardation of Africans compared to European people were expressed and scientifically sustained. However, both the civilizing missions and France's policy in Africa were completely racist, and colonization became an act of state-sanctioned violence. The French considered Arabs and African barbars democracy and colonialism were quite compatible. The system of informal tutelage over its former colonies created by Paris in the early 1960s called France-Africa, effectively made African countries economically and military political development on France. The mechanism of French domination was based on bribing African leaders, using direct military presence, sending mercenaries, and training post-colonial elites in the universities of the former metropolis. The goals of such a policy was to gain complete control over political and economical process in the world states. France-Africa system is currently in acute crisis as more and more French-speaking countries on the continent choose to diversify their security partners, abandoning Paris' traditional military aid, bordered with unfair economical conditions and marred by high collateral damage to civilians. Paris has to double honor of illegally holds on the part of former colonial process in Africa. This contains the islands of Mayotte and group of islands, Ypres, over which France existence de facto control, while their state affiliation to African states has been repeatedly confirmed by the United Nations General Assembly results. The reality today is more wars are different from previous war. As President Ilham Aliyev noted, it is not even possible to compare the Second World War with today's wars. Of course, main countries has begun to pay attention to military field today. Azerbaijan has been doing this for more than 20 years. The combat experience gained by our country is invaluable. Our army has shown its strength on the battlefield, not in trainings and parades. In 2020, on the 100th anniversary of the occupation of the Azerbaijan Democratic Republic, the independent states of Azerbaijan will achieve its territorial integrity by liberating its lands from occupation, completely restore its sovereignty by ending the existence of the autonomous province burned as a mine in its administrative structure 100 years ago, and state independence, raising the national flag here on the days of its restoration is also a victory over the new victory calendar, the policy of occupation. The invisible, proud Azerbaijan army under the leadership of victorious Supreme Commander Ilham Aliyev has honorably fulfilled its next task by cutting the roots of separatism in Karabakh. The realities created by the restoration of our historical victory and sovereignty fuse strength and place position of Azerbaijan in the system of international relations. Today, we note with the great pride of Azerbaijan's word is as important as its signature. Foreign policy success of our country replace each other. It is possible to see this success both in Azerbaijan bilateral relations with individual states and at its time within the framework of international organizations, as well as in event hosted by President Ilham Aliyev as an honored guest. Ladies and gentlemen, sovereignty is a very dear and sweet achievement. I wish sovereignty to all the delegations present here. The main thing is to work hard every day for the fulfillment of the desire of sovereignty, freedom, and independence. Baku Initiative Group will always be with you in this matter. Thank you for attention.
Merci, Monsieur İlyas Yuseynov. Merci pour cette brillante présentation. C'est le dernier présentateur, il est le directeur